A great battle against an invisible enemy. All of these things that Donald Trump has said, they're true, and they make perfect sense. Even Trump's most ardent supporters and his most ardent opponents, both of them, say this is a once-in-a-generation emergency, and we should be on wartime footing. And the opponents of Donald Trump, many of them, have called for more and more power to be handed to. No, let me get this right. To be taken by the president to do battles against this invisible enemy. Everything from commandeering manufacturing plants to logistics to shipping companies, pharmaceutical manufacturing, research, nationalizing the banks. What is going on? You said he was a tyrant. You're opposed to him, and you're just telling him to do all these things. No. And thank God we have a president that understands the free market, president that is preferred to form a partnership with private industries to wage the war, turning America's great companies to produce masks and respirators and ventilators and medicine and vaccines, all the things that will ensure our country can and will prevail while keeping them private. The United States and the entire world, they are engaged right now in a great battle against an unseen enemy. An enemy that threatens to kill our people, destroy our nation, and our way of life. And it's an enemy that we have seen and fought before as a people. We've faced this enemy throughout human history over and over and over again. We've had to battle it. All of us are descendants of survivors of the countless previous wars that humanity has had to fight against this hidden enemy of man. The enemy is a disease. The enemy is a virus. But the enemy is not SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus. The virus we're actually fighting against, the unseen, the one that wants to remain unseen, is slavery. And you can call it what you want: socialism, collectivism, communism, statism, despotism, authoritarianism. Whatever you want to call it, it's slavery. People's individual liberty captured for the benefit and the betterment of everybody else. Those are all forms of enslaving some men to the will of others. That's slavery. A virus is a biological construct. And doing battle against a virus requires treating both the symptoms caused by the infection as well as finding a vaccine that can destroy the virus as well. But slavery is also a political and moral construct. It's a social disease caused by an immoral idea spread by unthinking, unfeeling human beings who transmit the disease to others, turning them into factories that produce more unthinking, unfeeling human beings. They take over the lives of more and more people within a society or a country until that country is completely destroyed. Its defenses exhausted. And doing battle against slavery requires treating both the symptoms caused by the infection within a society as well as finding a cure that can destroy the idea itself. President Donald Trump is absolutely right. This is a war. He's also correct that we fought this type of war before. But this is not a war against the coronavirus. That, quite frankly, is child's play. As terrible as it is, COVID-19 is not going to kill us. Might kill a few of us, but we will prevent the spread. We will find a cure. America and the world will survive this pandemic as it has survived millions of others in the past. Each of us is a descendant of survivors of 1,000 biological plagues. The president is right. We cannot let the cure for COVID-19 be worse than the disease itself. And he has the right idea in terms of the outcome here. We can't let our response to coronavirus destroy the American economy. Now, when I say the American economy, it seems cold and callous. Because that's not really the objective, to save the economy. is not the objective. A healthy, productive American economy will enable people to generate wealth and accumulate things and to be healthier, to be safer, to be more free. That's a consequence. That's an outcome. It's not a cause in itself. What has enabled the American economy to be the most robust and powerful engine for human ingenuity, productivity, wealth generation? Individual liberty? Men free to think, men free to build, men free to fail, to seek new achievements, and to be rewarded for doing so, and punished by their own actions, the consequence of their own actions, a natural consequence. They fail. They have a right to compete with each other, driving each other to be smarter, to work harder, to find the better way to solve problems. That's America. That's not the economy. That's America. That's the battle we're in. That's the battle we're fighting to save. If the cure for COVID-19 is the slavery of some men for the benefit and betterment of others, then COVID-19 perhaps should take us all. If the cost of defeating the biological virus is that we then die on the table to political and moral disease of collectivism, then Trump's fear will have proved to be right, and the cure will have been much worse than the disease. I want you to look at what's been proposed. In the U.S., the government should take over every major industry from healthcare to pharmaceutical companies, grocery, food delivery, airlines, shipping, transportation, construction. Take it over. Banking, take it over. Stock market, take it over. On the global scale now, the United Nations is now calling for a permanent 10% global tax on the GDP of every country. Now, they say this is designed to, fight COVID-19. Permanent 10% tax to enable the UN to fight future pandemics, as well as the ongoing pandemic, climate change. Oh, and poverty and income inequality and sexism and nationalism and 1,000 other isms that are really, really super unfair. The United States is less than 5% of the world's population, but we represent 25% of the world's GDP. So the UN is effectively proposing that about 4% of the population transfer 10% of our wealth each year to support the remaining 96% of the human race. If you don't think that's fair, well, I just call it a progressive income tax. But I will tell you this. That leads to our destruction. And if you think it's unfair, then maybe you should do some rethinking. Because maybe you've been pushing from the wrong policies here in America. Because it kind of feels like the world wants to destroy us. What's proposed here is nothing short of permanent enslavement of the United States for the betterment and benefit of every other national on earth. There's no doubt in my mind that humans will survive COVID-19, and we'll do it in spectacular fashion. But the plague of collectivism, the idea that some men should be slave to others, that's the oldest idea in the book. That some people have some sort of right to lay claim to the intellect and productive energies of others. That's the real battle here. That's the true invisible enemy that we must yet again defeat. Ask yourself this. Would you have some right to charge into Mike Lindell's MyPillow bedding factory and point a gun to him and his workers and force them to produce cotton face masks to avoid being shot? Now, this sounds ridiculous, sounds preposterous, and all rational thinking human beings would clearly see that as immoral and a criminal act. But they don't see it as immoral and criminal in vast amounts of the world. That's happening in the world. And yet there are people here proposing to do that. They just didn't say you'd get shot. But they're coming in with the full force of the government. And at the end, It's whoever has the guns. Now, maybe some people say, well, I don't want the United States to do that. I want the UN to do that. Now I want somebody, in a blue helmet. But I'm okay if they have a U.S. Marshal's badge. Now, let me ask you this. Does Mike Lindell have the right to choose to convert his factory over to making cotton face masks at his own expense and to pay his workers to make those masks instead of making pillows? Yes. Yes, that is his moral choice. It's a human being engaged in activity that he believes to be virtuous and right. And yes, for the love that all is of all that is holy and profitable. Just as with COVID-19, the defeat of all forms of slavery should be an inevitability. And yet, from every corner of our country, there is a call for the forced enslavement of some people for the benefit of others. We are on the verge of losing everything that we have always held dear. On the verge of losing the things that matter the most to not just us, but what we want our children to be able to have. A future where they chart their own course. A future where they can live and grow and be free and live their dreams. Yes, experience some nightmares from time to time, but those nightmares won't define them unless they choose the nightmare. Trump has this exactly right. We cannot let the cure for COVID-19 come at the cost of our economy. And if that's the objective, then it's our original principles: individual liberty, freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to defend yourself. Those are the things that need to be defended. That's how we protect and restore our economy and our country. That's how we ensure that our children's children will also be descendants of survivors of plagues and pandemics, whether they're biological or the moral kind. This is why I wrote Arguing with Socialists, because I know the fight is on, and we have to be in that fight. And I wrote this not only for you. It's easy to read. It's very, very funny. It's in the style of Arguing with Idiots, which was our biggest seller, I think. And it's 4-color. It's almost like a comic book in parts. And it's one of those books that you can pick up and read from anywhere. And we did that because I'm riddled with ADD, but also because it was really effective. We saw in all of the books that we have written, Inconvenient Book and Arguing with Idiots, those two books in this style were the ones that people consumed themselves, learned a lot from, and then gave it to their children or their grandchildren. And their grandchildren used it in college essays, high school essays, elementary school essays. And I've heard for years how those books had been used, because they all have footnotes in them, so you don't ever quote me. You quote the people who actually said it. We need to arm ourselves with ammunition. We need to know that this cure is not being called socialism, but this cure is socialism. It is the modern monetary theory. It is universal basic income. It's a socialist dream. Book is officially out tomorrow. You can have it at your house tomorrow if you order it now at Amazon or wherever you buy your books. Arguing with Socialists. It is out tomorrow. Make sure you grab it.